What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here, and we finally have all of the official Madden 21 gameplay news. The stream just finished, so I'm about to break it all down for you guys. I was actually surprised at some of the stuff they touched on, some new features that I was not expecting that I'm actually happy about. Like I said, the gameplay trailers are cool and all, but when they really break down the gameplay, they talk about the more important things that do not get actually advertised in the trailer. So I'm going to break that all down for you. There's actually a lot to cover here. Now, if you're new to the channel, however, and you don't want to miss any of these important updates, next week is going to be the franchise and face of the franchise deep dive information. So if you're interested in that as well, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of the upcoming gameplay or Madden 21 news. Now, they didn't really show any new gameplay tonight. They really just focused more on talking about what they improved and changed about the game. They did show some screenshots that you'll see throughout the video, but let's get right into it. The first thing they addressed is run defense, and as you know, in Madden 20, the run was absolutely crazy. So they say here, simply put, stopping the running game in Madden 20 was too difficult for most. For Madden 21, we aim for a more balanced run-pass ratio, so we've made some improvements to the run fits and defensive gap system, with a strong emphasis on the force defender, who is the defender that is responsible for setting the edge versus the run. Here's some specific improvements. Force defenders are aligned on the line of scrimmage at the snap of the ball, and they will use wider angles at the start of the play to show more anticipation and better pursuit prediction to set the edge versus outside running plays. So stretch running plays, which is the thing that dominated last year. The force defenders, they're saying now, will finally set the edge a little bit more aggressively and predict, kind of take that wider angle and anticipate those outside runs. It also says force defenders will show more anticipation in their pursuit angles at the start of the play when facing quick hitting outside running plays such as jet sweep and touch passes as well. Hammer and fill players, who are the defenders in the run fit responsible for open gaps and inside of the force player. These guys will take wider initial pursuit angles versus outside running plays that will help them get over the top towards the outside of the formation quicker and prevent them from getting kind of messed up and caught up in the inside by blockers and other traffic. It says edge and force defenders will have wider gap integrity versus heavy/wing tight end sets. And it says new and improved blocking interactions with defenders, disrupting running lanes by pushing blockers further into the backfield during engagements versus all run types. Defenders will have better anticipation of the ball carrier's movements by taking smarter angles while/after shedding blocks. So basically, well, a lot of they talked about today was a lot of nerfing of the running game and kind of buffing the passing game a little bit, which was needed. So they've done a lot, it sounds here, on defense to make sure that stretch will not be as much of an issue. Force defenders will set the edge harder and wider, and the fill players will be a little bit smarter in anticipating where the run's going, and the better defensive players will block shed smarter, meaning they'll attempt to block shed to the side they think the run's going to. So kind of sounds like run defense got a big buff here, so we'll see how that plays out when we get the game. Also, before I continue, there is going to be a beta. They did announce it. I will probably at some point have codes to give away, so if you are interested in the beta, make sure to follow on my social medias. I'll put them up on the screen because that's where I give away beta codes. Because it's really the easiest way for me to contact you if you win the giveaway. So that probably is going to be coming very soon. So if you're interested in that, make sure to go hit me over there for a follow. Continuing on, tackling improvements, it says, in addition to the upgrades to the run fits, we know how important tackling is in run defense as well. We didn't just add the new breakdown and pylon tackles, we also made some core improvements to the existing tackling system. It says defenders will now be much more aware when they are engaged in blocks near a ball carrier, and they will trigger tackle attempts from these engaged blocks inside of the trenches and in the open field versus impact blocks. Hit sticks and dive tackles have been tuned to make them more accessible and functional, all of which come together with the new breakdown tackles for a more intuitive defensive experience. So, I mean, we've seen them kind of talk about tackling already. It does look like they've made the tackling a little bit better. And they touched on the location-based tackling a little bit more in depth. It says, the tackling interactions make our players more aware of their field location and react accordingly, including the pylon, goal line, sideline, and first down marker. While there's not a direct button input on the stick for these tackles, they will be driven by player ratings and superstar abilities, in addition to the abilities the defender's tackle and awareness ratings compared versus the ball carrier's vision and awareness ratings will drive outcomes for these interactions dynamically. So I'm not 100% like that. I wish it was more of an input thing, but it looks like it's completely ratings based. So if you have a high ball carrier and awareness rating, you're probably going to be more aware and be able to reach out and get those first downs or touchdowns more consistently. And if the defender has a really high tackle and awareness rating, he'll have a better chance of stopping you short and making sure you can't fully reach out. So we'll see how that plays out. This is the thing I think I'm the most excited about. This, to me, probably the biggest W of the whole stream. they added something new called zone drop coach adjustments. It says, we're introducing a new set of coach adjustments that will allow you as the defensive player to customize the depth of your zone drops for underneath zone defenders. These coaching adjustments will give you the ability to change your drop depth of a flat, hook, and curl flat zones, all in increments of 5 yards up to a max of 30 yards from the line of scrimmage. When using these adjustments, keep in mind that all match zone logic will be disabled in all coverage plays while using the adjustments, including the deep zone players. When facing no huddle offense, you can turn off the coaching adjustment by using the reset play option and the pre-play adjustment menu. So basically, you can say, I want my cloud flat to drop to this depth. I want it to drop 20 yards back, or I want my curl flat to drop 20 yards back, 30 yards back, 15 yards back. The reason this is huge is because the main reason that corner routes and certain sideline routes are so good in Madden is because the zones that are supposed to play them, some of these curl flats that you expect to drop further back, or the cloud flats, they don't drop far enough back, and then eventually they start biting down and getting aggressive. And I was almost going to assume this in a video that I did earlier, that this could be a potential way to fix this, but I didn't think this is something it would actually do. So now, as the player, if you're going to get someone that's just abusing corner routes, you can say, hey, I want my cloud flats to drop back, whatever, it could be 20 yards, because that's where the corner route keeps hitting, and he will stay back there at that depth, and he will not bite down. I think this is huge because it just puts control in the defensive player's hands to not get abused by some of these certain same routes over and over and over. I really like that addition. I think that is honestly the most exciting thing I've maybe heard of all of Madden 21 so far. For me, as an online player, excuse me, I like to hear that. Now, they did some QB and passing improvements here. It says, throwing out of sacks, all QBs will have the ability to throw the ball while being tackled. The accuracy and power of the pass will be dictated largely by physics. The further into the passing animation the QB is at the point of contact, the more likely the pass will be accurate. However, if at any point the QB's arm, shoulder are hit during the pass, that too can impact the accuracy. Throwing out of sacks does carry some risk as well. The earlier into the throwing animation the QB is hit, in combination with the QB's strength rating, the more likely he will fumble. They also added deep passes under pressure. It says new in Madden 21 are under pressure throwing animations, which allow QBs to contextually speed up their throwing motions when feeling pressure on a deep pass, which is throws of 40 yards or more. These animations are dictated by the threat to impact prediction, meaning that at the time of the pass has been initiated, if the QB thinks he will get hit by an oncoming defender before release, he can kind of sense that under pressure, and he can speed up his release, and this is all based on the throw under pressure rating, which will modify both the power and accuracy of the pass. So they're making it a little bit easier for you to get the ball off under pressure now, which I like. It says QBs can now quickly branch out of dropbacks to throw the ball at any time. As soon as the QB has received the snap, if a receiver button input is given, the QB will immediately branch out of his existing behavior and throw the ball to the intended receiver. And things like that, which basically they're just trying to give you a little bit more control as a quarterback. You know, a lot of times the animations take over. You can't get the ball out as quickly as you want to. I think that's all great, right? Says they have some accuracy and power tuning with a variety of improvements done to passing. They also did tuning to improve under pressure and cross-body passing accuracy to bring more balance for both, making inaccurate penalties more contextually appropriate to the situation. We've added a new max distance passing power penalty, which will activate when targeting a receiver who is deeper than the QB's max passing distance, and just things like that. So they're basically just trying to make it a little bit quicker to get the ball out and have more control of your QB. Now, we get on to defensive contain balancing. One of the biggest problems we've had for years, contains not really working the right way. They're too powerful as blitzers, but they don't contain the QB as well as they should. And it says, one of the more popular online strategies for Madden 20 was the contain blitz. Players told us this felt unbalanced because unblocked contain players were very effective pass rushers, but were also very quick to react to scrambling QBs. So they changed this. It says, when utilizing pass rush schemes that free up the contained player from being blocked, the player will now rush the QB at a slower speed than if he were not in a contain assignment. As long as the QB is inside the pocket and not scrambling, the contained player will be moving at a speed slow enough to react to the QB with the intent to keep him in the pocket, but will not break into full speed pass rush unless the QB starts to scramble. So the balance here is like before, you could have a contain that would be just as fast as a guy blitzing, but he could still contain the QB pretty decently. Now, if you put a guy in a contain, he's going to be more aggressive playing the contain. He's going to rush a little slower. He's going to go out a little wider and really try to prevent the QB from scrambling, keeping him in the pocket. But he's not going to rush as fast as a guy that is just on an actual rush or blitz angle, which he shouldn't. So I think that's a decent fix. We'll see how that works out. They also added some new catching responsiveness. Here they said players can now dictate the direction that they want their catch to take them as they secure the catch via the left stick input. For example, when holding up on the left stick using the possession catch, you'll be selecting a possession catch that will fall in the same direction as your stick input, ensuring the receiver won't go down, short of the sticks. The increase in control also is critical when throwing underneath routes, as the responsiveness allows receivers to quickly turn upfield using the rack catch. One obvious case to notice this improvement is when a receiver is nearing the sideline, the user will have control to keep him in bounds as he turns upfield rather than running out of bounds. So now, depending on how you hold the stick when you catch the ball, it's going to kind of angle your player in the right direction so that if you're trying to fall down, you can fall forward, make sure you get past the first down marker. If you're trying to catch and run with the ball, you can steer him in a way that's not going to take him directly out of bounds. I think that's all really good. A little bit more control there. Here's another very interesting thing. They added new player personnel packaging. It says pre-play audibles now considers the actual personnel on the field. When changing your personnel on the play call menu via packages or formation subs, your pre-play audibles will now match the personnel. So basically, before you could audible into any formation that had the same stock personnel, but now let's say you go to a spread set and you use a 2 tight end like slot package. So the 2 outside guys are wide receivers, the 2 inside guys are tight ends. You can now audible to any formation that is a 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end formation. So now you could audible into a single back deuce close, whereas you couldn't do that before. So now just gives you a little bit more creativity with personnel packaging and what audibles you can use with them. I think for creativity's sake, that is a great change. Here's another really good change. They added a balance for repeated audibles / play flipping pre-play. You see this online, especially with players that are trying to abuse the game. They flip their play a bunch of times, they audible a bunch of times to try to get your alignment messed up. Now the offense will carry a risk of the offensive line committing a false start penalty after the use of multiple audibles and pre-play flips. And the chance of the penalty will significantly increase with each additional audible thereafter. So basically, after you audible or / flip your play twice, once you get to that 3rd time, you now run a high risk of a false start. So you still have a little bit of freedom there, but you can't flip a play 4 or 5 times, which is what people like to do. Again, I think that is actually a good fix. It's a balancing thing, which is what we need. They also added more player fatigue for out-of-position ball carriers. So essentially, QB blast and like wildcat blast was a big thing in Madden 20. Obviously, we don't like the QBs fumble a lot, but it's kind of there for balancing. So now the same is going to apply to like a Tyreek Hill and a wildcat. And it's all tied to pretty much stamina, right? If you run the ball with him, like if you're trying to have your whole offense being run the blast with Tyreek Hill or run the blast with Lamar Jackson every play, the more fatigue they get, the higher chance these guys are going to have it fumbling. This was mostly just set for QBs before, but now it's any out-of-position ball carrier. So again, Tyreek Hill or, whoever you put at quarterback to run wildcat, a running back. If you're trying to run every single play with them, those guys are going to have a higher risk of fumbling. So you have to really manage the fatigue and switch it up so that you're not just spamming a wildcat blast every play, which is something you would really never see happen in a real game. They also did some kick tuning here. It says the kick meter on competitive game style is going to be a little bit more skill based, meaning it will be more difficult to get accurate kicks, and missing the accuracy window will have a slightly higher penalty than before. They also tuned the ball physics to make it skid more when the ball bounces around. This is kind of done to prevent the coffin corner kickoff exploits. Many know this as the scum kick, where you try to kick the ball inside the 5 and it bounces and it makes your player like fall down inside the 5-yard line. Now the ball is going to bounce a lot more and it's going to be harder to exploit those kicks. We'll see how that works. So somebody always finds a new scum kick, but that's cool. I hope that works. They talked about some ability improvements. They didn't touch on any of the new abilities. All we did see was a screenshot of Lamar Jackson, and his X factors actually called trust, so that's kind of funny. But they said they're going to touch on the new X factors and things later. But they did mention wide receiver route ability balancing, meaning now that wide receivers had a number of abilities granting them catching bonuses on specific route types, so like corner routes, post routes, in routes, right? It said these were very difficult to use at times since the required detailed knowledge of your team's playbook was very specific to hot routes and things like that. Yada, yada, yada. Basically, now they rework these abilities to grant their bonuses when the receiver catches the ball in specific areas of the field, regardless of the route they are on. So, not really sure what this completely means or how it works, but it sounds like now instead of having route bonuses for like post routes or corners, it's going to be like you're having just slot routes or outside, like the number type routes. You know, that's where you're going to get the catching benefit. Also said that it did a similar thing for coverage abilities. It said abilities like man up and zone out and universal coverage were essentially one-stop shops. It was too easy to pick up one of these abilities on a defender and just set it and forget it. And so ultimately, we did not like how easy that was. So as a solution to this, we have split these abilities into multiple versions that grant their bonuses across specific areas of the field, monitoring the new wide receiver ability. So now the coverage defenders will need to specialize in defending an area of the field rather than being able to cover the whole gridiron. So it's like, you know, you might be better in the flats, you might be better in a deep zone, like something like that. I'm not sure 100%, but that's kind of what it sounds like. They also touched on the pass leading ability, saying that they were kind of broken and the pass leading would go too far. So instead, they reworked the pocket pass leading abilities to make them, you know, if you've got like a pocket dead eye, let's say, for example, on those throws from the pocket, the ball is just going to come out a little faster. It's going to have a little bit higher velocity when you're hitting these throws that go with the ability, instead of adding increased pass leading distances, which wound up being broken because QBs would lead the ball just way too far. That is mainly all they talked about. The last really big thing, they did change the ball carrier system. You know, we know this. Up on the stick is now the hurdle. Down on the stick is going to be the dead leg. The truck button is now the Y button. That's kind of weird. I don't know if I like that. And they touched on the pass rushing. They said that, you know, your pass rushers, you'll have like these little bars. So you have 5 pass rush attempts each play, and you can only regenerate it, you know, 1 bar each play. So if you try to use 5 pass rush moves on a play, if you're user rushing, you're only going to be able to do 1 on the next play because you only regenerate 1 new bar per play. So you don't want to just spam them all out. Now, obviously, at the 2-minute warning, halftime, or if your player has a certain ability, he could regenerate his bars a little faster. And then also the offensive linemen have like this resistance awareness bar. So if your pass rusher beats an offensive lineman twice with the same move, he's going to build up resistance, and now that move's probably not going to work on him as much anymore. Now you're going to have to try a different move, or you're going to have to switch your lineman. So if Von Miller's on the right and the guy on the right's kind of catching on to his pass rush moves, now you're going to want to move him over to the left side, kind of switch it up because the other lineman hasn't built up the resistance to him yet. So kind of a little bit of a cat and mouse there. We'll see how it works. Sounds a little interesting, but we'll just have to see how it works. But that is mainly what they talked about today, gameplay-wise. No new footage, few new screenshots, but we'll definitely be getting more in the weeks to come. Tell me what you think about this. I honestly think a lot of the stuff they talked about here was things that us as hardcore players wanted to hear. They addressed it, what it sounds like, or they're at least attempting to address a lot of the issues that we had last year. Again, you know, we'll see how it plays. The beta is going to be out soon, so go ahead and follow me if you want a chance to win some beta codes when I get them. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, I will see you guys next time.